So this time, it was because I wanted to use you as a sounding board. Because I may have gone too far, but you tell me what you think. So I'm actually talking to you about actual proper traditional records management this time. I work for NHS Education for Scotland, quite a small organisation. Headcount is 800 or 900, and we look after the training and education of clinicians post-qualification in the NHS. So we're a simpler organisation than Aberdeen City. I don't pretend that what I'm about to describe works for all organisations, but I think it might work for us, and would be interested in any views you have. Our retention schedule up until now has been the traditional 30 pages of many record series with a record retention period specified for each. Colleagues would come to me and say, Frank, how long should I keep this? And I'd say, email them back the link to the retention schedule, say the retention schedule's there on the intranet, it'll tell you. And they'd come back a couple of hours later and say, Frank, how long should I keep this? It was a daunting document if you're not a records specialist, if you're not into this thrilling field that we occupy. It's also very tricky to implement in an electronic environment, those myriad retention periods. So those factors, and the fact that when I looked at the schedule, I could see that the vast majority of records are really clustering around a few very basic retention periods. So with that in mind, I attempted to distill it down by, first of all, assuming a default retention period, and then managing from that by exception. So what we've got down to is 3 pages with a default retention period of 5 years. So the driver for that being the Prescription Limitation Scotland Act 1973 as amended, and the fact that almost all the clinical professional groups that we work with have a 5-year professional what am I looking for? A personal development cycle, a CPD cycle of 5 years. And this covers really the bulk of what most people deal with in our organisation. We manage from that by exceptions, so clearly there are things that should be kept a heck of a lot shorter periods. 1 year or nil for the ephemeral stuff. 6 years for finance and HR, and you'll see that even when we have a single retention period, if we go back to that one, you'll see that there are different triggers. So your year might be different, your year end might be different, but the retention period is the same. We have a few things that need to be kept for longer periods. We've got a small amount of record that goes to National Records of Scotland. 10 years is a retention period for some of the higher risk records. I had to fudge it a bit when it came to research data sets because there are so many different drivers, and that really has to be on a project by project basis. So it's a cop-out, I know, but that's how I've captured it for the moment. There is a wee bit of pushback, so I've got users coming to me who've looked at it on a test basis and said, I think you should really put in this record as an example, that record as an example. I'm trying to resist that because if we keep adding in the examples, we're back to it being 30 pages long. At the same time, I recognise that users will want assurance, and they'll come to me and say, surely you don't mean 5 years for this stuff. This has to be permanent, this is my work. To avoid having to make those decisions over and over again, I will still be keeping a register of queries, so I'll still have a longer list of records, but that's really just to manage those requests, and so that I can say, no, we've decided that sticks with the 5-year default retention period, and we don't have to make that decision again. That, hopefully coupled with an email to the user, should give a degree of assurance without us expanding this out again. As I say, I recognise it's not a fit for all organisations. I don't yet know if it's going to work, but I hope this is a cleaner, simpler retention schedule, and one that stands a better chance of actually being implemented, which is ultimately what we're trying to achieve. So be interested to hear your views either after this or drop me an email. Cheers.